and this little tin of Zelda mints. I'm gonna have a couple while I talk to you. I'll be kind of chewing on them and stuff as I talk. I like the little sound they make. This is a little metal tin. There's a little Zelda Triforce. Okay. Like I said, I learned a lot about Zelda. I really can't wait to share with you some of the awesome stuff I found out. I'm really looking. I've never had a Zelda mint before, so I'm really looking forward to having one. I wonder what they taste like. Probably peppermint. Yeah, I think it's safe to say they taste like peppermint. Okay. So, Zelda, The Legend of Zelda is an action-adventure video game. A series of video games that is published by Nintendo and was released in 1986. And it was released on the NES, or Nintendo Entertainment System, which was also known as the Family Computer, or Famicom, in Japan. And just to give you sort of a point of reference, the game was released on an 8-bit cartridge. And to give you an idea, today's game systems actually use 64-bit processors. Multiple 64-bit processors. So it gives you kind of an idea of the leap in technology that's taken place since then. But the game was created by two men named Shigeru Miyamoto and the other man was Takashi Tezuka. Now there was a composer by the name of Koji Kondo who has written, well, he hasn't written all of the music for the game, but he has worked on music for Zelda games since the very first game, and I believe he still does. I'm gonna have two. They're so little. Oh! I wasn't expecting this. They're very minty, but they're also the kind that completely melt in your mouth. You can't really like suck on them. They just sort of dissolve. I think this one isn't doing it. The first one did it. Oh, okay. Nope, this one's hard. I wonder why that first one was so melty. Okay. Anyway. So. Zelda is very widely regarded as one of the most important games and most groundbreaking games of all time. There are several reasons for that. This is weird, you guys. These are all hard, crunchy mints, and the first one I had just melted. I hope it wasn't poisoned. Well, if it was, it's been very nice knowing all of you. Okay. Cool. So, as I said, Zelda is known as a very groundbreaking, innovative, important game in gamer culture. One of the major reasons for that is that it was basically one of, if not the first game to sort of incorporate a story into the game. At the time, most games were just about winning points, winning and losing, but Zelda, Legend of Zelda, is regarded as more of a sort of an epic tale that you experience as you play, and that unfolds over time as you play the game, which up until that point hadn't really been done. Not on those types of games, anyway. And the ability to use lots of different types of items in the game was new as well. Dozens of different types of items. And it had this giant world that was so huge and so vast that could just be explored. That was full of hidden secrets and things, which made it an incredibly sort of rich gameplay experience for the users. But what made it probably one of the most innovative elements was that it was the very first console game that had a save function that allowed you to stop playing the game and then resume later and pick up where you left off. That hadn't been done in console games before. Zelda sort of broke the mold on that. It also had, I think, just the original, maybe not, but the original had it's called a second quest, where when you beat the game, you could go through and play it a second time, but everything would be a little bit different, and everything would also be a little bit more challenging, and that was very unique. And it was also very innovative for its time, for the 80s, which is super cool. Music played a really big role in the game as well. It's full of sort of musical puzzles and musical instruments that help the player move forward in the game. And the music will change in real time as you're playing. So, He created the game Shigeru Miyamoto when he was a kid. He spent a lot of time. He grew up in Kyoto. He spent a lot of time as a kid sort of exploring just the outdoors. And he would spend lots of time sort of roaming the hillside and exploring forests and caves. And he loved the sort of sense of adventure and excitement and wonder that afforded him. And he said that was a major influence in the creation of The Legend of Zelda. He actually decided to name the game Zelda because one day he learned that F. Scott Fitzgerald, the famous author, that his wife was named Zelda, and he liked the name, and that was it. That's how he decided. So after the original Legend of Zelda, there was Legend of Zelda 2, or Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. That game was not super well received. I think namely because it was a side-scroller for some reason, instead of the top-down perspective. And after that, they went back to top-down. So I'm not sure why it was made a side-scroller. But I think a lot of people didn't love it for that reason. Yeah, so it was considered a bit of a fail. But it was also released in a gold cartridge, like this one. Then after that was A Link to the Past, which returned to the top-down perspective, like I said. But it also added an alternate dimension into the game, and it was called the Dark World, I think. Alternate dimension that you could play in. So there was an animated series called The Legend of Zelda. Very short-lived. There's only 13 episodes. And it was featured on every Friday episode of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. That's what it was called. When it was in the time slot that the Super Mario Brothers cartoon normally aired. It didn't run for very long at all. And it had a lot of sort of, even though it was short, it had a lot of continuing themes. For instance, in every single episode, Link sort of attempts to get a kiss from Princess Zelda. every time it's his plan is thwarted by some outside forces, and they get interrupted. And that happens in every single episode, I believe. And Link he even has a catchphrase that he says when he's sort of being rejected or shunned or whatever by the princess. He goes, "Well, excuse me, princess." Which may or may not be a reference to either Steve Martin in SNL or Han Solo from Star Wars. But I'm not sure. Might be neither. Might just be a coincidence. I love mints. When the show, when they stopped airing the cartoon, there was a show called Captain N, the Game Master, and they a few times had sort of slightly different versions of Link and Zelda in that show, which was interesting. And the actors who voiced Link and Zelda in the Legend of Zelda cartoon were the same actors that voiced them in Captain N, the Game Master. So I know that with these game cartridges, if there's ever the game wasn't working properly and you suspected that there was dust inside, you would kind of blow on the inside of it to get the dust out. So I thought that might make maybe an interesting trigger. I wanted to try it. So now I understand that when you were in the middle of a game and your cartridge was acting up, you probably weren't blowing on it calmly and gently like that. There's probably a lot more rage behind the gust. But for our purposes, I'll clean. Well, now I want to share some interesting facts with you. While I stuff my face with breath mints. So, Link, who, if you didn't already know, is the main character of the Zelda world. And when you play a game, you're playing as Link. Link is nearly always, except for, I believe, two of the games in the series, nearly always shown as left-handed. But what you might not know is that the reason for that is that he's modeled after, or that aspect of him is modeled after, one of the creators, Miyamoto, who is left-handed. Also, this may be common knowledge for Zelda players, but the famous actor-comedian Robin Williams, who's one of my favorite actors of all time, I think he's a really big gamer, and he named his daughter Zelda after the game. When his wife was pregnant with their daughter, they were playing Zelda one day, and it just sort of dawned on them to name the baby Zelda. In, I believe, 2011, there was an art book released that featured all kinds of beautiful artwork and a Zelda timeline, a manga, I think. And the demand for it was so high that it topped the Amazon sales chart, replacing 50 Shades of Grey. There was some little bit of interesting controversy about an element of the game in the original, I believe. Yeah, in the original. I believe it's the third dungeon of the first quest in the original game. That, when you look at it, is shaped rather like, well, not rather like, completely like a left-facing swastika. Now the shape is actually what's called manji, I think, which in Buddhism is a symbol of like good fortune, I think. Peace, maybe, good fortune. So in Japan, when the game was released, this didn't cause any controversy at all. No one really cared. In the US and Britain, I think, it didn't cause a ton of controversy, but it was still pointed out. So it caused a bit. In the first game, there's a treasure item that's called the Book of Magic. And it was changed from what it originally was to look different, but originally it looked exactly like, well, it looked like a Bible. It was a Bible. And that was changed so as not to cause any controversy or offense. One thing that I thought was really funny is that well, there's a game in the series, I believe it's the first 3D Zelda, called Ocarina of Time. Had a trailer come out that was changed almost immediately because of how offensive it was. And it said, oh gosh, what did it say? It said something kind of sexist, so they changed it. funny. It says a few things, and then it says, "Willst thou get the girl or play like one?" I think that pissed some people off, so Nintendo thought, oh, probably can't say that. Let's change that real quick before anyone notices. But it ran for a little while. So, one of the games that I was most looking forward to, which I have completed, was Resident Evil 2. Now, I have not played the original Resident Evil 2, but I have played almost every single one apart from it. So this was a new experience for me. I really enjoyed this game, and I haven't picked it up in a while, but I know I will again, to play through the story again and to do the extra content, like the survivor mode. So, as some of you know, I am quite a big Resident Evil fan. I think there's always been a Resident Evil game included in my video game collection videos. And I'm sure in the next one, Resident Evil 3 will be included in that. I have been looking forward to that game for a very long time. I think it is supposed to be released in just a few months, so I'm looking forward to that. So in this game you play as Leon and Claire, with two separate campaigns for each of the characters. So I shall read to you what it says on the back. A rookie cop's first day on the job. A student searching for her missing brother. A city on the verge of collapse. Completely reimagined award-winning horror classic. Play individual campaigns as Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield. Explore a stunningly rebuilt Raccoon City infested with terrifying zombies. This is a one-player game, as most of the Resident Evils are, which is fine by me. I think we have plenty of multiplayer games to go around. This one was good, but I felt like I got more bored with this one than I did Resident Evil 1. I love Resident Evil 1. It is definitely one of my favourite games, and I really enjoyed running through that game over and over again, whether to explore the game again or to get the achievements. This one though, I feel like it fell short, and I think that comes down to the, in my opinion, kind of weak villain and the weak fights. I didn't enjoy 2 as much as 1. I myself am a fan of 4. That is my favourite. I know a lot of people tail off in their taste of Resident Evil after 3, but I love 4. Arguably, I love 5. I know not a lot of people do, but I like 5. And 6, I didn't
really enjoy the story, but I really liked the online content of that, as I did with 5. And 7 was still the worst, but that's just my opinion. So for me, in terms of how I enjoy Resident Evil games, my favourite parts of them always will include an online mode. I loved Revelations for how much it really focused on that online mode, both in 1 and 2. So for me, I know I need to find a deeper interest or have more content to be interested in from the story. And I feel like for the extra content that this game provided, it was good. I will absolutely say that. But it was not as enticing to play again and again. So I feel like this game will be enjoyed further by doing as I have done, and that is taking a pause from playing the game. I would absolutely suggest this Resident Evil game to play. This game also did really well. I think this is one of Capcom's highest selling video games. I know that this one actually outsold the original Resident Evil 2. So this is definitely a crowd pleaser, I will say. You don't have to play any of the other Resident Evils to enjoy this or understand it. And I think almost all of the Resident Evils are like that. You can very much enjoy them just as they are, and you can play them out of order should you feel like it. I'm definitely going to go back and play this again. So, as much as I am a Resident Evil fan, I am equally just as big a fan of Devil May Cry. I have always loved the Devil May Cry series, and it was very good to hear that they were going to be releasing a main game for the series and not an offshoot or anything. So this is Devil May Cry 5, which includes Dante, a new character called V, and Nero. I have not finished this yet. I got this a little while back, and I am on mission 16, so just a few more missions to go. And I think this game is really good. Really, really good. I think I was at first a little bit frustrated from having to switch out from different characters and starting at the bottom of their skill set, but eventually you do get used to that, and I think that's what keeps the game interesting. The way it works in this game, unlike the others, is that for each mission you are given a different character to use. For the most part it is Nero, and you can also play as V and Dante in the game. You don't get to choose for the most part, but you do get to explore each of the characters fairly well. So far this game is really good. This feels very much like number 1 and number 4 combined. I thought it was really good in this game that they actually included several both references to number 1 and also a lot of different monsters from number 1. I particularly like 1 for several reasons. The soundtrack is amazing. The style of the monsters is really amazing. I like the story. I like the whole game. So this felt like an homage towards that. This felt like a very fitting follow-up from 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I very much look forward to finishing this game, and I would highly recommend it. I will say, as much as this soundtrack wishes to be memorable, I don't feel like it hits the mark as well as number 1. It relies on the same song too much, whereas in number 1 I feel like the few tracks it did include were very memorable and they really added something to each of the fights. Particularly Nilo Angelo. You have to love that song. But this is really good. This is a real treat in the series, and I would absolutely recommend this game, especially if you are a previous Devil May Cry fan. So I'm going to finish this and I'm going to play a whole bunch of other times. I haven't played the online mode of this. I know nothing about it. The rest of the Devil May Crys, to my knowledge, didn't have an online mode. So I will look into that. The next game that I have to show you is Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, I have never played number 1 at all, but I don't think that took anything away from my gameplay experience of number 2. I felt like it was very much its own game, and since completing this game I have looked up elements of number 1 and see how some of the characters relate to number 2, and I feel like maybe the game is best enjoyed when played in order. So I really liked this game a lot. It was very heavy on story and very heavy on character development and having a very vast, expansive, immersive world to run around in, and it succeeded in that very well. So I'll read to you what it says on the back. America, 1899. The end of the Wild West era has begun. After a robbery goes badly wrong in the western town of Blackwater, Arthur Morgan and the Vanderlinde gang are forced to flee. With federal agents and the best bounty hunters in the nation massing on their heels, the gang must rob, steal, and fight their way across the rugged heartland of America in order to survive. As deepening internal divisions threaten to tear the gang apart, Arthur must make a choice between his own ideals and loyalty to the gang who raised him. This game is just overall really good. You play as a character called Arthur Morgan, and his story is very good and it was written exceptionally well, as well as all the other characters that surround him. A couple of negatives in my opinion is that the online mode in this is, in my opinion at least, really boring and does a massive disservice to the story, which is so in-depth and serious and passionate, and the online mode feels flawed and flimsy and like you could place it in any game and it would make sense, and it doesn't really complement the story mode very well. I think I played it for a total of 30 minutes and just never came back to it, so. Now I know a lot of people like the online mode. I know that a lot of people seem to really enjoy that. However, I don't. One of the things that this game does very well is its lack of hand-holding in its way of taking you through the game, but also its service of helping you understand elements of the game and the vast amount of things that you can do. And I think its progression in difficulty and the challenges it gives you as a player is very well paced. At no point does the game seem boring, too easy, or too frustrating. I feel like it has a very good balance of everything for each type of player. And one of the great things about this game is that when you're done with it, there are so many elements of the world still yet to explore. There are so many Easter eggs to find, additional content to have a go at. So this is definitely one of those games that you could put lots and lots and lots of hours into. I will say that the ending is not what I was looking for as a player, but obviously you can't please everybody. And I felt like that took away a small part of my enjoyment of the game, and especially the immersion and the character development, I would say, in terms of its pacing. But that's just my opinion. I know lots and lots and lots of people loved the ending of this game. Okay, so let's move on to the next game. So the next game that I have to show you is Monster Hunter World. So I started playing this just about when it came out, I think within a week of it being released to Western audiences. And I have never played a Monster Hunter before. I believe that there was a demo included of Monster Hunter with a PS2 game, and that was the last time that I'd ever played anything to do with Monster Hunter. This is a fun game. This has a super weak story, but a really, really expansive, immersive, gorgeous, beautiful world to explore. The monsters are fantastically designed. I know that a lot of them come from previous games in the series. One of the things that this game absolutely exceeds at is its online mode. You can jump online with other players to beat very difficult bosses and jump out very easily. Its co-op mode gels so well with the gameplay that I thought that it did really well at that. This game to me is completely unmatched by any other game in terms of its immersion, its environments, its atmospheres it creates, its smooth linear connections to bind those parts of the world together, and just the way these giant dragons and creatures settle into these environments, and you know, the genuine sort of fear you have as a player knowing that this random monster is just flying into your area and you won't be able to beat it alone, at least. And I think that eye rolling or sigh is almost something that adds to the game, because it relates so realistically to how the character would feel in the game. So I loved everything about this game up until finishing the game. And this game never ends at the end of the story. This game is done when you as the player think it has done. You can pick up different sets of armour to wear, and your companion, which is a small cat called Palico, also has different sets that it can wear. I think this was one of Capcom's most successful games ever, especially on PC, and I can see why, because it must look really gorgeous on PC. This game, in my opinion, is definitely tough. It is a difficult game to contend with, and you do solely have to rely on your knowledge of the weapon you choose and your controls and how you use them, as well as the items and accessories you can use to best fight each individual monster. So this is definitely not a button bashing game. However, this game is not alienating, I believe, in any sort of way. You do pick up the controls very quickly and very well, and that obviously aids to the enjoyment of the experience. If you are a player who really likes giant immersive worlds that really focus on colour and atmosphere and a mythical feeling to your video game, whilst also feeling like you're really a part of the experience, I would highly suggest this game.
So I'm going to get started here in just a second. I'm just looking at them right now. They're all PlayStation 2 games except for one. I have one Wii game just thrown in the mix. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the first one. So this is probably my favorite one out of all of the games that I found, and I have not played this, and I don't mean it's my favorite video game, but it's just my favorite item to show you guys, just because it's so cool. Ed, Edd n Eddy. If you guys ever watched Cartoon Network growing up or as an adult, I used to watch this cartoon a lot as a kid, and it was one of my favorites on Cartoon Network, right up there with Courage the Cowardly Dog and Powerpuff Girls, Billy and Mandy, you know. So Ed, Edd n Eddy was one of my favorites. I actually did a watercolor painting of the Kanker sisters, which are from this show, and I'd love to do one of Ed, Edd n Eddy one of these days to kind of complement that picture that I drew. It's one of my favorite artistic creations I've ever made. This is a PlayStation 2 game, like I said, and it's called Ed, Edd n Eddy The Misadventures. And guess, as Eddie. Out of the three, I always liked Eddie the most. I don't know, just because he was the goofiest, I suppose. I'm always drawn to those sidekick best friend characters in shows that are a little ditzy, you know. So many shows have them. You know, Billy and Mandy. Billy is the ditzy one. Powerpuff Girls, Bubbles, I would say, is the ditzy one. And SpongeBob, Patrick. So I always, like, my favorite character in all these different shows are always that bubbly, kinda silly, kinda ditzy personality. So I can't wait to play this game, and I can't wait to make a video showing you guys what it's all about. When I seen this, I got this at a yard sale. When I seen this, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Okay. So I'll do some tracing before I move on to the next game. Okay, let's trace over the letters here. Got E, D, Ed, E, D, D, Ed, N, E, D, D, Eddie. The Misadventures. The Misadventures. See how it's spelled? Adventures. So, that is the first game. Okay, and then this is the random Wii game that was just thrown into the pile. And this is Wipeout, the game. Wipeout, which I love these type of shows, if you've ever seen them. Like American Gladiator was another one that was kind of like, I like shows where they go through the obstacle courses or like do different, I don't know, relay. It reminds me of different relay races or something that we used to do in PE. So Wipeout is gonna be fun, especially since it's on the Wii. It says, do you want to run the Wipeout course? Ready, get set, splat, bounce, smash. Complete against friends and family in over 50 insane obstacles from the hit ABC TV series. Featuring the voices of John Anderson, John Henson, and Jill Wagner. So this is a 4-player game. 4 players. I'll show you a closer look at that. I like the facial has 4 bullet points. The first one says, do expansive interactive courses for extensive gameplay. The next one says, play 3 game modes. Arcade, original, and crazy box. The third bullet point says, choose from 4 different cabs and drivers, each with their own style and attitude. And then the last bullet point, number 4, says, rocking soundtrack from hit bands Offspring and Bad Religion. So the pictures on the back make it look really fun. I like driving games. I've told you guys that before. I like racing games, anything that you get to drive around. That's one of the reasons why I've always liked Grand Theft Auto and San Andreas and all those different type of games, because I like to drive around in them. Same thing with Mario Kart. So these little pictures that show little sneak peeks, little ideas on what the game is going to look like. Hold it closer. You know, it shows that taxi up in the air. It shows that taxi going everywhere. So that's going to be pretty fun. And the characters all look really fun. I'm seeing there's one girl, so, and then that dude, but he has green hair. I'm sorry, I can't really see him through, like, my phone. I gotta look at him. So, this is a one-player game, okay? One-player game. And it's aimed at teenagers. So. Alright, this next game I heard was really good. I never played it, but I think my dad had it before, and I think it was really a fun game to watch. I'm gonna show you. The Cat in the Hat is what it is, Dr. Seuss, and this is for PlayStation 2 as well. Now, if you've ever seen the movie with Mike Myers playing Cat in the Hat, it's such a good movie. And considering there is a video game of it, it's gotta be really fun. There's the back really quickly. That little fish. Okay, go read it. It says, it's fun to have fun, but you have to know how. Go beyond the zany fun of the movie with an unbelievable adventure starring you as the Cat in the Hat. The cat's crate has been opened, and Susan Magic has turned the house inside out. Bring all the wacky fun home from the movie as you race to restore order to the house before Mom comes home. Okay, underneath one of the pictures it says amazing Susian creatures, including some just for the game. Let's see, one picture says bring the fun of the movie home with over 20 delightful levels. And then one of the pictures says use the cat's amazing umbrella for tricks like floating, capturing creatures, and more. Then one picture underneath it says includes favorite characters from the movie: Sally, Conrad, the fish, Thing 1 and Thing 2. So that's really cool. This is a one-player game, and it is, it's directed at everyone, it says. So I'm gonna have fun playing this. Eventually, I'd like to make a video playing each video game that I have. It might take me a while because I've gotten quite the collection now. But a lot of these, you know, I have never played, so I'm like such a noob at them. But I think it'd be cool, kind of like you guys seeing my unexistent skills. And then maybe I'll get better one of these days. You can kind of see the prim revolution of me playing video games. I just never have taken the time. San Andreas, the one that has the jetpack. They might both have a jetpack, but it's been a while since I've actually played them. So this is what they both look like. Hold them like that, as you can see. Pretty cool. Looks nice. So, I guess I'll start with Vice City. It says Rockstar Games presents a Rockstar North game. Welcome to the 1980s. Ooh, 1980s. Welcome to Vice City, a huge urban sprawl stretching from the beach to the swamps and the glitz to the ghetto. A town brimming with delights and degradation. Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Having just made it back onto the streets of Liberty City after a long stretch inside, Tommy Vercetti is sent to Vice City by his old boss, Sonny Forelli. But all does not go smoothly upon his arrival in the glamorous, hedonistic, oh my gosh, I can't read, hedonistic metropolis of Vice City. Tommy is set up and loses everything. Sonny wants his money back, but the biker gangs, Cuban gangsters, and corrupt politicians stand in his way. Most of the Vice City seems to want Tommy dead. His only answer is to fight back and take over the city himself. And then in parentheses it says, our jaws hit the floor and stayed there. And then something else says, the beginning of a new era. So it's cool. You see a boat in this, you see a motorcycle, you see an airplane, you see a gun, a sword, a car, all kinds of cool stuff. I'm liking it. I don't see a jetpack though. So, but I know some of these you might have had to have a code to get, like a special, like a cheating code. That sounds so bad. But you have to, like, you'd have to go online or something and find, like, a code to get the jetpack in there. And then you'd have to, like, push certain buttons in your remote. I remember doing that sometimes to get my jetpack. So, yeah, this is a one-player game. And it's directed at, like, 17-year-olds or older. So, I bet it has cool music in it, like from the 80s. That's another cool reason I like driving around in those games, is because of the cool music that they have.
But I do have the other Resident Evil games that I bought after I bought Resident Evil 4, because it turns out that Resident Evil 4 is one of the very first games I played, and also still one of my absolute favorites, and I pretty much love all of the Resident Evil games. So since I had a Wii and it's backward compatible, I was able to pick up some of the GameCube Resident Evil games, such as the regular Resident Evil, and this is the remake, I believe. So it comes on 2 discs for the GameCube, but they both fit inside the Wii without any problems. And comes with a little booklet, like you would expect. I picked this up used, probably at GameStop or someplace like that, but it was in pretty good shape. So, it's like the book. I really enjoy the older Resident Evil games, although I find that I usually need a walkthrough in order to manage them, because, I don't know, lack of a map or puzzles or whatever seems to defeat me. I am not an expert video game player by any stretch. And that's Resident Evil. I also have Resident Evil 0 for the GameCube. This plays inside the Wii without any problem. And you have your booklet. guess that's, I don't know, what character are those? Chris? No, Billy Cohen and Rebecca Chambers, which pretty much, as far as I know, never appeared again in any other games. I don't know. Let's see. So, I've got to find my Resident Evil 4, but I do have my Resident Evil 5 with Chris and Shiva. Oh, and it's missing. Well, I'm sure it's around somewhere. I play it a lot. And there's a booklet for that. Chris and Shiva. This game's pretty fun to co-op. I've co-opted it with my niece, playing Shiva. But honestly, like, a lot of people complain online about the AI for the secondary character, but I never really had a problem with it because she's a perfect shot. Just don't give her any healing items. So, there's that, and then I also have Resident Evil 6, which I've completed most of already. I just bought this a couple of weeks ago. And I love Leon's campaign. And I love Jake's campaign. And I hate Chris's campaign because Piers is a little bitch. He is just, I don't know. He's constantly arguing with Chris, and it's too much like an action game, that part of the game anyway. I don't know why. But I didn't even finish it. There's like, at the end of chapter 5, you have to run away from this big creature, and the camera angle is ridiculous, and camera angle is ridiculous. This doesn't even come with a book. You have to go online to get the booklet, and the game doesn't exactly have a great tutorial, but Chapter 5 of Chris's campaign, you have to run away from this big creature, and I kept getting killed over and over again, which was completely ridiculous. So I just abandoned the campaign and started Jake's, but I really love Jake's campaign, and I'm going to go back now and play it as Sherry. Now, a little ad in here for Resident Evil Damnation, which is one of the CG movies. There's 2 of them. I think the other one is called Resident Evil Degeneration or something like that. They're both actually pretty good. And they both feature my favorite Resident Evil character, Leon Kennedy. I have to say, the people who make these games do a really great job of making attractive video game characters, because I love these guys. Now, let's have a cup of tea. Let's see. Next up, my favorite game, Alpha Protocol, which I have played through at least 5 times in full. It is my favorite game. It is sort of like a combination action game / RPG, and it has the best branching dialogue options and things I've ever seen. The dialogue alone is worth playing the game for, but it's just pretty fun killing people in it too, because you're like a major badass. This game is made by Obsidian, and if you went to Metacritic, you would see very lukewarm, mediocre reviews for it, because it does have some issues. Namely, the graphics aren't all that great, and some of the gaming part of it, some of the playing part isn't really that brilliant. But however, the story is excellent, And it's everything you kind of hoped Mass Effect would have been, with the branching dialogue, you know, actually changing things in the game instead of having the same solutions and outcomes. I don't know, I really love this game. It's probably my favorite game. I've played it at least 5 times. It has fantastic voice actors, and I really enjoy it. The main character especially is well done. Mike Thornton and his buddy Steve Heck. Highly recommend this game. Now, my other favorite game, Metro 2033. I cannot wait for the sequel, Metro Last Light. This game is set in the, I guess it's Russian, I think it's set in Russia. I don't know, Eastern Europe somewhere. Set in the Russian tunnels. And it's sort of action game, bit of horror element to it, and just beautiful storyline, first person player game, very atmospheric environment, and I think a pretty gripping story. There's a point in the game towards the very end where I just was very emotionally affected by it. But I really love this game a lot. It's very fun to play. Beautiful, beautiful looking game. And it's funny, I had stayed away from it for a while because most of the reviews online suggest that the game is very difficult to play. You know, and I'm, like I've mentioned, a horrible, crappy gamer. However, I did not really find this game difficult at all. Granted, I did play it on the lowest setting possible, but I think all the comments about this game actually being difficult to play are completely ridiculous. Great game. And another favorite game of mine, Deadly Premonition, which cost $20 when it was new. This is another game which graphically, not the greatest thing in the world, has many playing the game itself, parts of it, especially anything involving shooting, are just ridiculous and annoying. But again, this is one of these stories. It has a great storyline. There's a lot of different things you can do in the game. The characters are amazing. Has good at voice acting. I don't know, the main character is just incredibly, I don't know what to say about him. He's just incredibly appealing and just very interesting, and I don't know, you get really involved in the game and what's happening with everyone, with the character in it. It's just fun. It's really fun. I mean, graphics are truly terrible, but I don't know, you look past it. Too much fun. It's like a horror game, basically, if you didn't get the idea from the way it looks. Welcome to Greenvale, remote rural town where mystery and murder go hand in hand. Assume the role of Agent Francis York Morgan and delve deeper into Greenvale's deadly secrets. Interrogations, investigations, and bloody crime scenes await you in this seemingly sleepy town. Can you survive long enough to fulfill your deadly premonition? It also has some really annoying quick time events that basically made me cry. Cry from annoyance and frustration, not from emotional attachment. Now, let's see. Okay. BioShock, the first game, is another one of my absolute favorite games, which is missing from this pile, which means my niece probably has it. BioShock is the reason I bought an Xbox 360 in the first place. And BioShock is actually probably the reason I even ended up starting gaming. I saw an ad for the video game on television, and it was so amazing looking that I decided that I needed to have it. So I tried to play BioShock on my PC, which was a horrible piece of shit. And since that didn't work, I decided I went out and bought an Xbox 360 and the console version of BioShock. And I love that game to pieces. One of my favorite parts of that game is picking up all the little tape recordings along the way and piecing the story together. I don't know if you can tell, but one of my main interests in video games is storytelling aspects. I think most games are pretty terrible at it. Writing for video games is still not quite as good as it could be. But there are quite a few games that I think do a really amazing job of having a narrative that you can really become immersed in. And BioShock is one of them. And BioShock 2 is another one. In fact, I don't know, I was a bit leery of BioShock 2 when it was first announced, because I thought the first game was so unique in its setting that there really wasn't a reason to go back to the same place. It just seemed a bit like a retread. However, it turns out that BioShock 2's story, well, let's just say the ending of BioShock, the first game, was not that great. And it's kind of anticlimactic, bit of a letdown, to my mind, anyway. So, this game, however, I think has a much better ending. And, I don't know, I just became a little more emotionally connected to the story and the characters in this game than the first game. So, I'm really looking forward to game number 3. Let's flip through the book here. Yeah. There we go. Alright.
Starting off, Grandia 2, an RPG that is, I believe it's turn-based, and it's one of those, like, multi-disc, I'm pretty sure. Oh wait, no, this is just a soundtrack. But yeah, Grandia 2, I'm not really sure why they never continued that series. From what I remember, it was pretty popular, but I haven't played it since it came out. Next game up is Shenmue, one of the more, well, I guess sought after titles, although this one's super beat up and like falling apart. This is like a 3 or 4 disc game though. This is a super long. It was like a weird hybrid RPG, well, not really action game, like, yeah. It was a unique game for sure. So the history with me in the Dreamcast is my brother used to have one, and he wanted to sell it when he went to college, and he ended up selling it to my friend, my really close friend. And a few years ago I was talking to him and I was like, oh yeah, I'm like collecting retro video games, and he was just like, oh yeah, I have that Dreamcast that I got from your brother still. He's like, you can have it. So he gave me his Dreamcast and all his games, which were my brother's games, some of them, which is kind of cool. So next game up is Tomb Raider. I honestly haven't played this one. I think I picked this up really cheap a couple years ago. figured it'd be good just to have a Tomb Raider game. Here's one of the launch games, Sonic Adventure. This is a 3D platformer. It's a pretty fun game. I really enjoyed it when it came out. We played the shit out of this game, but doesn't really hold up too well now. But still kind of fun. This one was a pretty popular one. House of the Dead 2. It was popular because it was basically like a direct arcade port, and it was like having it in your house, and you had the light guns and everything. Mainly a light gun game. So if you were to use it, you can't play this on like a new TV. You'd have to get a CRT. But yeah, kind of cool. There's a classic, and probably I'm guessing is the best port of this game, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. This came out for N64 and PlayStation 1, and the Dreamcast was more advanced in hardware, so I'm pretty sure this is probably the best game. I'd assume so. Either way, really, really good game. Awesome soundtrack too. So yeah, that's really all the games that I have for the Dreamcast. The main thing with that is the Dreamcast is really easy to pirate, so I have a huge stack of burned games. So yeah, I don't really feel the need to find or buy any new or add to the collection, you know, because I can get any game I want, which is a really cool thing about collecting for the Dreamcast, or just owning a Dreamcast. I'm not a purist at all. I don't really care if I play a burned copy or a real copy. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Sorry about the background noise. It's really, really loud right now. But yeah. So next up is the Sega Saturn, which is my favorite Sega console. Mainly because there's so many shmups, and I'm a huge fan of shmups. If you've seen my other gaming videos, you know that. And it was a complete failure in the US, but in Japan it was really successful. So here we only got, I don't know, like 300 or 400 games or something like that. And in Japan, I think they got like 1,300, like plus. So it was a significantly more popular console in Japan. So that said, all of these games are Japanese imports, and I have one North American game, which is my favorite game. So I guess I'll just get started with that. This is a shmup, like I said. My favorite Sega Saturn game, Galactic Attack. This has a really cool mechanic where you have like homing missiles, and I don't know, it's just a really fun game. Just a really cool mechanic, and it's got great sprite work. It looks really well. It looks really good. So highly recommend that game. There's also Galactic Attack 2, but it only came out in Japan, and it's called a different name. It's called Layer Section, and that one is called Layer Section 2. So yeah. So some of these games, so the Sega Saturn, these import games are becoming more collectible, mainly because the Sega Saturn is really hard to emulate, and there's just bad emulation, and there's bad ROMs. So it's like one of the few consoles that it's beneficial to have the original copies of everything. So some of these I got, actually most of these I got in Japan while I was there a couple years back, and yeah, go through. This one I've never played, but I thought it was awesome because I snowboard. What is it? Snowboarding Tricks 98. So on one side of Sega Saturn is I don't know if you'll be able to read that, but the Japanese, the Japanese name, and on the other side is the American or English. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, I thought it was just a funny game. Next up is a shmup, Gunbird, the first one. Really, really, really good shmup. This also came out. Oh wait, no, I think Gunbird 2 came out on PlayStation 2 as Mobile Light Force, and I believe it's part of the Castle Shikigami series. If I'm correct, I don't know. I might be wrong. Also an Atlas game, which is pretty cool. Here's one of the more popular titles. Well, I guess it's a 2.5D platformer, side-scroller kind of thing. This was like their mascot for the Saturn. I don't think there was a Sonic game on the Saturn. I might be mistaken, but or like an actual like mainline series game. So this was their closest to a mascot that they had, and it was a really fun game. Highly recommended. This is the Christmas version that only came out in Japan. So it's just some Christmas levels, basically like DLC for that game. This is, let's see, I haven't played this one. What is this? Sega International's Victory Goal. A couple of these I picked up in like a bargain bin, and they're like the equivalent to like $1 or $2. I was like, well, why not? Here's a classic one. Doesn't really hold up, but yeah, I don't know. Virtua Fighter 2, one of the original 3D fighting games. Yeah, pretty cool. This is one of my favorites too. This is Parodius. I forget which one this one is. There's 3 Parodius games. I only have one of them. And they're cute 'em ups. So it's like you have like an octopus instead of like a ship, like a traditional shmup. It's like, sorry, Yoshi's walking around. It's like octopus, and like there's like a woman on a missile. That's like one of the characters. It's just super Japanese, and it's awesome.
How's it going, everybody? Doing a collection video today. It's my combined PS2 and Xbox collection. There's only 20 games between them, but I figure it's a video to get up. Pretty good games in here. I'd say the Xbox ones are a little bit better, maybe, but start off with the PS2s. Super Busted Move. This game I got at that garage sale with all those games. It's a classic puzzle game. I remember playing this in high school. A place called Jelly Bean on lunch. Had the arcade machine in the back. That was just Bust a Move or Bust a Move 2. I don't know. But you gotta match the colors and the thing comes down and stuff. Classic puzzle game. Lord of the Rings of Two Towers. Another classic. This and the one after it that I'll show, Return of the King, I'll just say it, are really good hack and slash games. They're the best games based on this stuff. That is actually, like, I'm not counting like the Third Age or Shadow of Mordor, which just uses the property and it's not based like on the stuff. It's a cool game. You use Legolas, Aragorn, and Gimli in this one, and it follows through the movie, and you get movie clips and stuff like that. You got the voices from the movie in there. Here's Return of the King. I got this one. I got those crayons at a garage sale for $1. Same thing. This one you can use more characters, and it branches off. You use Sam and Frodo. You use Gandalf. You use Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn. Same thing though, you're playing parts for the movie and stuff. They were just really good games for sure. Final Fantasy 12. Good game. I played it for like 15 hours and stopped and went on to something else, but it doesn't have the normal turn-based system. It's, real time, but it's really cool. I kind of stopped too because I thought I might pick up the enhanced version they put out on the PS4 and Xbox One, but I haven't picked it up. So I may still go back to it. I have my save on the memory card. I can't even remember the characters' names here. Final Fantasy X-2. Love this game. Someone asked me to do a top 10 video games, with gum chewing, and this might be in there for sure. I love this game for whatever reason. It's turn-based. It's the sequel to Final Fantasy X. Although you just use Riku, Yuna, and Pain is new to the game. She wasn't in 10. But this game is not serious. Oops. It's not serious like Final Fantasy X. It's like really just over the top ridiculous in a lot of ways. Yuna's a pop star, gun-toting pop star. Everybody's like having a good time. It's definitely a lot more lighthearted, although, it's serious things are happening. It's not completely different than that. But she's looking for Titus, whatever you want to call him. She finds a sphere. That's what you do. You go there's sphere hunters now, so you go around and you can bounce from place to place. You have your airship and stuff, and you can find stuff. It's got the job system in this, so they could be like a thief, gunner, or whatever, and they could do different things. But it's cool. It's got the same combat and stuff, but I just really like it for some reason. I don't know why. Scooby-Doo and Night of 100 Frights. Really good Scoob game. I don't know if that's picking up on here. I hope it isn't. She's very loud. But it's you just use Scoob in this, and you meet up with the rest of the gang, Daphne, Velma, Fred, and Shaggy, and they'll give you like tips and stuff where you'll have to help them. But you meet up with, you have to go through like levels of the show kind of, and you gotta fight villains from the show and stuff. But it's really cool. And Scooby-Doo Unmasked, not as good as the other one. I haven't played a ton of this one after I did that gameplay, but it's pretty good. This one's a little different. You can like get stuff and then make like sandwiches and stuff like that. And you get costumes and they give you abilities, similar to like a Kirby or something. But it's cool. Negative of being in an apartment, everything's so tight. Oh wait, I still got 3 PS2 games. GTA 5, an absolute classic. This changed the game. I remember I had the GameCube, and I went by my friends, and he was playing. Him and his brother were playing this. I was like, "What?" I was like, "This is ridiculous!" Like, it was so mind blowing at the time. It really changed the game in terms of like our open world stuff, in my opinion. Really good. You use what do they end up calling him? Claude Speed. I think he's in one of the other ones. Or he pops up in San Andreas as a side character, because San Andreas is this, before this. He doesn't talk, but he got good voice acting. It's a pretty good soundtrack. Probably still my favorite GTA game. It is Vice City. Still my favorite setting in any GTA. I love Vice City. They need to go back to Vice City. This one's got Ray Liotta as Tommy Vercetti, the main character. Great voice acting in this. You got one of the guys, I think his name's Philip Michael Thomas, from Miami Vice. He's the bad guy. You got Gary Busey, Dennis Hopper, William Finchner, I think his name is. Good voice acting, great setting. It added upon 3 so much at the time, and it was great. They added new things for you to do. You can like put money into town stores and stuff and collect money. And it's this classic GTA over the top ridiculous comedy and stuff like that. And San Andreas. I didn't play enough of this. This game was too huge, and I never got into it when it came out, but I played a little bit of it. I know a lot of my friends were like, it's really good, but it's a massive game world. Once again, a great soundtrack. Vice City has a great soundtrack too. It was still a great fun play. I know you could like, if you like ate too much fast food, you get fat, and you'd have to like, if you worked out a lot, you get all ripped and stuff. Your body would fluctuate based on what you were doing. But obviously GTA 5 went back to these areas. All three of these had the maps and manual. Now on to the Xbox. Blood Omen 2. Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen 2. Really cool game. You're using Kain again in this. You get all types of different powers and stuff. I think you're fighting the Seraphant Lords in this one. But you get different powers and stuff. You can possess guys. You drain their blood, obviously. You're a vampire. Combat's good. I haven't played it in a while. I beat it originally. It was one of the first Xbox games I got back in the day. But the voice acting in these games is top notch, man. All of them. The Soul Reavers, the original Blood Omen, this one, and Defiance. Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. Still holds up. Gameplay is fantastic. And it's the fighting and just the wall running, climbing, swinging on stuff. Classic. Original Xbox launch title, Bloodwake. It's a cool little game. I haven't beaten it. I picked it up well after it came out. But it's just a boat combat game. It's good fun, kind of arcadey type gameplay. It's actually fitting for a gameplay vid. I need to do a gameplay vid on Xbox. I put a thing up on Instagram. People wanted to see it. I haven't gotten around to it yet. I need to do it. It might be with that game. It might be for this game, Dead to Rights. This game is sick. I like this better than Max Payne's. I mean, I love Max Payne 3. I like the original Max Payne. I didn't play enough of 2, although it's similar. This ripped off a lot of Max Payne, but I just love this game, Jack Slate. This has better gameplay, in my opinion. You got your dog Shadow. You get framed in this, so you're going after everybody. Crooked cops, mobsters. But you have to. You're Jack Slate. You're just shooting everybody. There's no shortage of enemies. There's unique boss fights. Just the gameplay. Once you get the gameplay down, because it takes a little bit because you're doing so much stuff. You're diving slow motion, which is a Max Payne thing. You're sending your dog Shadow out to kill people. You're fucking breaking necks. You're doing all types of moves. It's just so good. It's so good. And it still holds up too. You can use human shields, yada yada yada. There's mini games. There's a cool part where you go to prison actually and you break out, but you gotta get cigarettes for people and stuff, and you're doing weightlifting.